I recently took a job that reminded me exactly why I never want to work for anyone else ever again. Now, I've trained in high ticket sales and it's something that I really enjoy. I enjoy being on an offer and talking to people and helping them decide if that is the right fit for them. When I got offered a solo interview, I went through a few of the questions. I went asked them some questions, and I was like, wow, this is exactly the role that I've kind of been looking for. So I was actually really excited. In fact, I was praying that I would get this job because I was like, this feels like such a fit. So anyway, I got offered the job a couple of days later and I was so excited. I was over the moon. Like, to have this opportunity, the prospects were going to be super qualified. They come in through a form. It says very clearly, are they willing to invest, etc., etc. So I was so excited and hooked up my calendar, got all sorted, ready to take the calls. And that first week, first of all, there were like hardly any calls. I was like, okay, they told me I'd be getting like, full days. But look, I gave them some grace. They were just starting Facebook ads again. So I was like, okay, that's cool, chill. I'll just learn. I'll just learn everything I can about what you do. The more knowledge you have on the business, the more comfortable you are talking about it. As calls started to come in over those next couple of weeks, the prospects were very, for lack of a better word, skeptical. And half of them had like zero money, even if they did want to do it. So it was a real struggle closing them. And even when I spoke to the trainer, because I had a trainer through this recruitment company, so I'm talking like high level trainers here, amazing people. Honestly, I couldn't fault them, to be honest. And even he would watch the recordings and be like, you know what? It's okay. Look, even I couldn't have closed those. And this guy does a ton. So it wasn't my skills at that time. It was the quality of prospects when they showed up, because the no show rate was I'm going to say it was about 45%. Now don't get me wrong. I understand in this industry there's going to be no shows. I get it. I'm okay with that. I personally think 45% is a little high, especially when they've been confirmed, to be honest. Anyways, that later that week, I'm about my second weekend by now, and my boss was away for that coming week. And she just wanted me to make sure I was going through all the old leads, because in the system, there were leads dating back to January, actually. And she said, can you just clean it up and make sure it's like super clean so that when I go in there, I know exactly what I'm looking at, and there's only the few that we've gotten that day or that week or whatever. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So consider it done, kind of thing. So I went through methodically, did the call, because, as a closer, I was actually setting as well. So in other words, I was calling people, I was making the appointments to get on a call and talk to them if they answered, and then just putting them where they belong in the pipeline. No problem. Did all that. The following week, I got my first close. So needless to say, she was super excited. That same day, I got my second close. So 2 in one day. Boom, doing it. And I felt like I was on a roll. And I felt like, you know what? The leads are coming right now. The Facebook ads are obviously doing their thing. That's awesome. And I was really excited. Just, it felt like a fit. I was really getting along with the people that I was speaking to, because that's one of the best things of the job, is you just get to meet cool people, right? Most of the time. Anyways, that evening I got a message from my boss saying, I just believe you are totally meant to be with us. I think this is going to be a long-term thing. I'm just so excited. I could see you being sales manager one day. And I was like, wow, that's cool. It's cool to be appreciated, right? The next morning, I did a couple of my calls, and then I got a 5-minute voice message. I don't mind listening to voice messages. In fact, I prefer voice messaging over texting. So I listened to this voice message on WhatsApp, and what can I say? All I can say really is I was shocked at the total complete change from the night before. Like, it was a complete 180. In this voice message, she was saying how disappointed she was, how annoyed she was, how I am slacking off, how she went into the pipeline and saw leads from January and February, and she thought I'd done them and that I'd lied to her. I was like, what? And I may or may not have been swearing in my head at my phone, maybe even doing the fingers too. Now, look, I don't swear. It was in my head though. I was blown away at the complete change. And I didn't understand where this was coming from. So I was extremely confused as well. And I thought, you know what? I've got to leave it an hour or two before I reply, because otherwise I might just say some things that I regret. About 2 hours later, I sent her a message, and it was just a very short, curt message. And I was saying to her, I'm not sure exactly what you're looking at, but when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Like, I was just really confused. I think what I wanted to do is get an understanding of where this had all come from. And that was why I sent that message. And yeah, it was just a voice message back to her saying, yeah, I am definitely not slacking off. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And about an hour later, I get another voice message. And you could call it a weak apology. It was a very mild apology. But look, it was an apology. She was pretty much saying, in a nutshell, oh, I don't know what I was looking at. When I looked last night, that's what I saw, leads from January and February. And she's like, but they're not there now. And yeah, I was just so confused. She did say, though, that she goes, just understand that my reaction is how will come down on you if you don't do your job. What? I guess for me, at my age, I don't think I need to be treated like that. Am I unreasonable in thinking that she could have actually just come to me and said, hey, Deb, I see some, leads in there from January. I thought you'd sort of cleared them out. Did you actually do that? Give me a chance to explain, because I would have been like, yeah, I sure did. Let's see what you're looking at. Then she would have gone back in and been like, oh, they're not there anymore. So, okay, must have been, maybe I hadn't refreshed or something since she'd come back. I don't know, whatever the reason is that she saw what she saw. The fact is I had done it. And the reason it can even be proved that I'd done it is because the program actually logs the times of everything done. So when I'd done calls, it logs them. When I'd moved them, it logs that. It logs everything. So it's not like I'd lied about it and covered it up or anything like that. She accepted that I had, in fact, done my job. But in my mind, at that time, I was actually like, you know what? Massive red flag. That was a massive red flag to me. I was going to finish up then. I decided, you know what? This probably isn't the business for me. But then I thought, I kind of let myself have the weekend to just come down from that and just, try and move on. I didn't have anything to do with her over the weekend, because the weekends are, kind of sacred in my time. And by the time I got to sort of Monday, I'd kind of simmered down. I was kind of, I guess, almost over it. And I think what you could say, I was then in the job with a bit of a warning in my mind, like, okay, if she's going to react like that, I'm just really wary of people, how they react. And when someone reacts like that, there's something wrong. However, like I said, moved on. Things were never quite right from that point. Personally, I'm sort of thinking, with the way everything went, that she didn't like that I stood up for myself, that I didn't kowtow to what she was saying and be apologetic, but I had nothing to apologize for. I am old enough now that I know what I want in a boss if I'm going to be employed by somebody. Anyways, that situation, fine, move it on. The following week, I got a close that day, so I was really excited about that. Because finally it looked like the ads were coming right. I was actually contributing to the business now, so that felt good. I sent this message to her and saying like, oh, I've got, this close and this is what happened and told her a bit about it. And then she proceeds to ask me, did you give them a discount? Bear in mind, they had set up a discount on the website that I could use if people were to join there and then. Now, because this woman was, then yeah, I used it because I thought that's what it was for. So then she sent a 5-minute voice message. And by this point, I'm in this job and I am now dreading voice messages from her. Like, the way she deals with things is so off the wall. Like, it almost felt like there's like no emotional regulation or something like that. She just jumps to conclusions, flies off the handle kind of thing. Anyways, so she flipped out about me using a discount code for this particular client. In fact, she goes so far as to say that she would happily let the sale go because there was a discount offered. But then she goes on to say that perhaps it was a miscommunication on her part about when and how the discount should be used. So look, at least she admitted that, because I was clearly under the impression that if they signed up there and then, that I could discount them. Had that been the only message she'd sent, I probably would have stayed on. Now, at this time, it's Friday night, my husband and I are driving south, and he heard this message and he kind of looked at me. He's like, I guess that's fair. You know, just sort out the discount stuff. Like I said, had that been the only message, I'd probably still be working there today. Maybe not. Anyways, 5 minutes later, I get another message. And it's almost like she's sat there stewing on what's gone on. I laugh now, but at the time I was in tears. I was really upset. I'm a pretty sensitive soul, okay? The next message I get was just really insulting and very condescending. It all started with the line of saying, with your big background in marketing and sales that you told us you had when you got this job. Like, I'm sorry, what? You could not get more condescending than that. I do have a background in sales and marketing. I do have experience in high ticket sales. Using that to justify her argument about not giving a discount, I was just, at that point, I was starting to be a little bit done. But she carried on and she started going on, and her words were, this is a quote, I don't want to take those other sales away from you, but let's be honest, one was paid for by the government and the other one was paid for by their mother. As though those were super easy sales to get. Now, for those of you that have not done high ticket sales, let me just explain something to you. If you have a call with someone, you spend 45 minutes on a call with them, you give them all the information that you've got their life story, why they need this and want it, and you've matched it up with, and you know what, it's a great fit. And then they're like, look, we don't have the money, but we know we need this. I'm going to see if my mum will do this, will pay for it for us, right? Do you think that's an easy sell? I didn't get to speak to the mother. I tried, but I didn't get to speak to the mother. They had to take everything that I gave them, pass it on to the mother and ask her to fork out all of this money, thousands, for this, okay? So I'm sorry, don't tell me that's a flippin' easy sale, because it ain't. So that, as soon as I heard that from her in that message, I was done. I looked at my husband and he looked at me and he said, Deb, if you want to quit, I support that. You see, I had started that evening off getting ready for this theatre show, telling her about this call that I'd had, sending that message and having that close, making her thousands, by the way, that she apparently didn't care if she got. Hey, I'll take the lot. Only to be not congratulated, saying, hey, great job, Deb. That's awesome. But hey, maybe now that you've got some sales under your belt, maybe we don't do the discount now. I don't know, something like that. Like, adults would say. She pretty much rained on my parade. Instead of feeling good about that, I just felt completely undermined, as though the sales I'd made didn't even matter. And it just completely undermined my confidence, which is such a shame because, you know, even the sales trainer that they were paying substantial money for to train me, I'm talking 20K for a few weeks. Like, he was amazing. I cannot fault him. And even he told me how he was really impressed with how I was doing, because obviously he had to watch every call. So to be criticized like that after that voice message I'd sent her about that latest sale just literally took everything from me. I think it was at that point where I started realizing that I needed to stop trying to make this role work and realize that I didn't want it to work. I don't know what was wrong with her. I don't know why she reacted that way. I still wonder if it comes back to that first angry call or voicemail she left me saying that I'm slacking off because I hadn't done what I said I was going to do, even when I had. And I wonder if she just didn't like that reaction of mine, that I stood up for myself. Because let's be honest, many people don't. Many people would be like, oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. But I don't know. All I can tell you is from that time, things were not quite the same, because suddenly I was sitting there being treated in a way that made me doubt myself. And I honestly wondered, why am I here? If I'm so terrible and you can do better, go sell the damn program yourself. I didn't say that. So what did this whole situation teach me? It's taught me that I don't want to put somebody else in a position where they have that much control over how I feel about myself, my work, and basically my livelihood. Now, the ironic thing after all of this is I don't even know what I'm building next. In fact, I'm figuring that out right now. That's what this video is about. But I do know that I want to create something of my own again. I just don't know exactly what that's going to look like just yet. But if that experience taught me anything, it's that I'd rather figure that out than go back to building somebody else's thing. So I guess that's what I'm doing now, is just figuring out what comes next. And the funny thing is, this isn't my first time building something. I have built a Facebook marketing agency, and actually that was what brought our first home. I've sold courses, I've coached, I've built websites and funnels and landing pages and lead magnets. I've done network marketing. I still make money from one of those. I even went away and studied law, and I've practiced law for a year. So it's not that I don't know how to build something. It's more, what do I want to build next? And that's what I'm figuring out now. So if you want to follow along and see where this goes, and subscribe and come along for the ride, because I genuinely do not know where I'm going to end up next.